Hilafa Zindabad, Ahmadiyya Zindabad. Hilafa Zindabad, Ahmadiyya Zindabad. Hilafa Zindabad, Ahmadiyya Zindabad. Alifa Hindiya Wankoso, Ahmadiyya Wankoso da. Alifa Hindinu Wankoso, Ahmadiyya Wankoso da.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Welcome viewers to the maiden edition of a brand new program titled Milestone. Milestone is a program wherein we shall be discussing and studying the rich history of Ahmadiyyat. We are going to take a close look at how this noble Jamaat thrived through thick and thin in order to come this far, and the numerous successes it had chalked over the years, in spite of incessant attacks and onslaughts from the opponents. And how Allah the Almighty demonstrated his matchless support and love for this Jamaat. A Jamaat he planted with his own hands through the advent of the promised Messiah and Mahdi, Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad of Qadian alayhi salam. Today, inshallah, in the discussion, we are going to discuss the holy founder of Ahmadiyyat. We are going to discuss who he was, his place of origin, and others. And to do the discussion with me here are gentlemen from Jamia Ahmadiyya International. Gentlemen, you are welcome.
Thank you.
On my immediate right, I have Abdul Hakim Ajman, who is a Ghanaian, and then by him is Suleiman Abdul Hakim, a Nigerian. Now, Mr. Suleiman, let me begin with you. We are discussing about the history of Ahmadiyyat, and we would like to start with the founder himself. We would like you to tell us about his family background, but before that, I would want you to clear a misconception, or rather say an allegation leveled against the Jamaat, that the man we claim to be the founder of the Jamaat is not the Imam Mahdi. This is an allegation that it's not the Imam Mahdi. Why? Because as per the prophecy of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when commenting on وَآخَرِينَ مِنْهُمْ لَمَّا يَلْحَقُ بِهِمْ, narrated by Hazrat Abu Hurairah radiyallahu anhu, he narrated that when the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was explaining this verse, he placed his hand on a man by name Salman, who was of Persian origin. He was affectionately referred to as Salman Farsi, that is Salman of Persia. Now he placed his hand on this man and prophesied that the person who was to come after him, the person who was going to be the Imam Mahdi, will be of Persian origin. That is to say, he's not going to be an African, he's not going to be an Arab, he's going to be of Persian origin. But here's the case where you, Ahmadis, you say that your founder was the Imam Mahdi, or is the Imam Mahdi. But we realize that he was from India. In fact, whenever you mention his name, you say the promised Messiah, Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad of Qadian, and we know Qadian is found in India. So how are you going to help us refute or resolve these seemingly conflicting facts? That is the fact that the prophecy of the Holy Prophet ﷺ, as opposed to the fact that the promised Messiah was born in India. Please.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, dear viewers. There is no contradiction in the saying of the Holy Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and what happens to be the origin of the promised Messiah ﷺ as well. The history of the world shows us that people migrate from one place to another, and it's a tradition of the world. And this did not erase their place of origin. It was in the 16th century, which is approximately 10th century of Hijrah, when a man, an honorable person of the family of Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad by the name Mirza Hadi Beg, migrated from Persia and settled in India. And by the name Mirza, which is the title that all the person in this family bears, as I said, Mirza Hadi Beg, and also all other people in this family have this title. It's an honorable title given to this family from Persia. And this name Mirza, it is commonly used for the title of honorable people in Persia, and it's not of Indian origin.
Okay, so if I could get what you're saying that the title Mirza is peculiar to people of Persia. So for them to have this name running throughout, so it's a clear evidence, aside the fact that they migrated from Persia, it's a clear evidence that he was of Persian origin.
Exactly.
Right. Thank you very much. Mr. Hakim, let me come to you. Now, he rightly mentioned he named one Mirza Hadi Beg to be the ancestor of the promised Messiah. Can you tell us about the migration, how it came about, and actually what transpired, please?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, dear viewers. Mirza Hadi Beg, as my colleague rightly stated, was a noble and pious man. So in the year 1530, due to some circumstances, he had to migrate with about 200 people from Khurasan, which is found in the city of Samarkand. And Samarkand is situated near Bukhara, where Imam Bukhari came from.
Okay.
And this is now found in Uzbekistan, the country Uzbekistan.
Okay.
So when they migrated, they settled near a river called Bias in India. And after they had populated this area, they named it Islampur. So this is how come the ancestor of the promised Messiah, alayhi salatu wasalam, came from the Persian kingdom into India.
Okay. Now, they have settled in India, as you rightly mentioned, near a river called Bias. Okay. So now, can you tell us, can you list some few names, those who had, some of his ancestors, his forefathers who had stayed here in India? Okay,
after Mirza Hadi Beg passed away, he was succeeded by Mirza Faiz Muhammad.
Okay.
And then after him came the great-grandfather of the promised Messiah, Mirza Gul Muhammad. Then after Mirza Gul Muhammad came the grandfather of the promised Messiah, Mirza Atta Muhammad. Then came the father of the promised Messiah, Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Murtaza.
Okay. Mr. Suleiman, tell us, so after they had settled here, what was the name of the place? How was it? Was it still India as we know, or what was the name?
After Mirza Hadi Beg had migrated from Persia and settled in a river bank, the bank of a river Beas, okay. This settlement was named Islampur at the beginning because of the apparent Muslim living in this area and the peaceful atmosphere that could be observed from here. And because it is a human nature that there are some conflicts that happens. And as my colleague has rightly said, that Mirza Hadi Beg was a pious man. He was made the Qadi of this place. So Qadi was also added to this name Islampur, and it becomes Islampur Qadi.
Okay, this brings me to my next question. You mentioned that the name of the place was Islampur Qadi. But always, when you mention the name of the promised Messiah, Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmed, you say of Qadian. So tell us, where from this Qadian? How did it come about?
As we know that with the passage of time, name of places changes. This area was named Islampur and later Qadi because of Mirza Hadi Beg as a judge.
Okay.
And in Islam, a judge is also called Qazi.
Okay.
So from this word Qazi, Islampur was dropped later because of the long pronunciation, so as to ease the pronunciation of the place. Okay. So Qadi was from Qazi, Qadi was derived, and from Qadi we have Qadian.
You mean after Islampur was dropped, they maintained the Qazi all right, but with the passage of time, it turned into Qadi. Then again, it finally became Qadian. Exactly. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
Okay. I think, this actually is a general phenomenon we observe day in, day out, that with the passage of time, certain words are corrupted or altered. I can set a typical example here in Ghana. We have our capital to be Accra, but history tells us that it was actually Nkran. Nkran in our local dialect means red ants, okay, red ants. Of course, there's a history behind that, we are not going into that, but it was Nkran. So with the passage of time, just as Kadi became Kadian, Nkran turns into Accra. So I think I agree with you in that sense. Right, Hakim, so tell us, now they have settled in India. They have named their place, their territory, Kadian. Now tell us about the promised Messiah, the birth of the promised Messiah.
Okay, about the birth of the promised Messiah, alayhi salatu wassalam. During that time, when he was born, there was no system of proper documentation or system of keeping such records. And so we cannot get an accurate date and time of which he was born. But according to the estimation done by his son, who is called Hazrat Mirza Bashir Ahmed, he estimated that the promised Messiah, alayhi salatu wasalam, was born on the 13th of February, 1835. And this date was on a Friday during Fajr prayer, that is the dawn prayer, which we term in Islam as the Fajr Salat. So after the birth of the promised Messiah, the conditions and the situation of the family improved. And the promised Messiah ﷺ also was born a twin.
He was born a twin?
Yes. A girl was born before the promised Messiah ﷺ, but the girl child died a short while after her birth.
And can you tell us the name of his parents?
His father's name is Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Murtaza Sahib, and his mother's name is Hazrat Charag Bibi Sahiba.
Permit me to make this contribution. The promised Messiah was born as a twin. This also fulfilled the prophecy in a book, Fususul Hikam, by the Hazrat Muhyiddin ibn Arabi, rahimahullah. He said that the person to come as the promised Messiah will be given birth to as a twin. So in this sense, the promised Messiah also fulfilled this prophecy.
Quite interesting. Yes, now the promised Messiah is born in Kadian. Now tell us, was he having some siblings, brothers, sisters? Tell us.
The promised Messiah is having some brothers and a sister. And the promised Messiah's father, Hazrat Ghulam Murtaza, firstly gave birth to a son who died in his infancy, and followed by a daughter by the name Murad Bibi Sahiba, who was known in the history as a pious woman. And after this, followed by Hazrat Ghulam Qadir, Mirza Ghulam Qadir, who died at the age of 55 years of age. After this, there were one or two children who also died in their infancy. And from this, the mother of the promised Messiah, Charag Bibi Sahiba, had been praying to God fervently for a child that would live long. After this, the promised Messiah was given birth to, who lived a very long life with a twin sister who also died a short while after the birth. So these are the siblings of the promised Messiah.
Hakim, tell us tell us about the childhood of the promised Messiah. The promised Messiah as a child. How was he like? Was he like any other child, or what was unique about him? And tell us also about if he had some sort of education when he was a child, please.
The promised Messiah, alayhi salatu wasalam, even though he was a child, left a very pious and noble life, which was cherished by most people who saw him or had relationship with him. He did not engage in unnecessary activities which most children do, as we see around. He used to act as a judge in their games or serve as a referee. So the promised Messiah, alayhi salatu wasalam, engage in some games and sports, but not unnecessary ones.
You mean even as a child, he was always in the position to decide on over issues, conflicts within the children?
Exactly.
Okay.
And this shows that the work that Allah Almighty was going to give him to do will be to serve as a judge between people.
As it comes in the narration, he'll be the Hakama Adal.
Exactly.
Right, quite interesting. Yeah, go ahead. About his education.
About his education, the promised Messiah was not enrolled in any such formal education or any such formal institution where he got knowledge. Rather, his father employed some tutors who came to teach him some basics. For example, when he was about 6 years old, his father employed to him a tutor who was called Fazle Ilahi. And this Fazle Ilahi taught him how to recite the Holy Quran and also taught him some few elementary books about the Farsi language, the Persian language. And when he was about 10 years of age also, his father employed another tutor who was called Fazl Ahmed. So this Fazl Ahmed instructed the promised Messiah ﷺ in the elements of Arabic grammar. And when he was about 17 or 18 years old, his father employed another teacher who was called Gul Ali Shah. And Gul Ali Shah taught the promised Messiah ﷺ about Arabic language, the grammar, and something of logic. Apart from this also, the father of the promised Messiah ﷺ was a well-known physician. And so he instructed the promised Messiah in the rudiments of medicine.
You mean the basis of medicine?
Yes, so these were the basic knowledge that the promised Messiah ﷺ was taught. Apart from this, he was not enrolled in any such formal institution.
Right. So basically, this is what every parent would want for the child, that the basics of education should be, he should get access to basic education. So I think that was basically what the parent did.
So permit me to make a submission here. The promised Messiah, when he was in his childhood, it happens that once he needed something, and there was a man with the flocks of his sheep. The promised Messiah asked him, "Could you please help me to bring this thing from somewhere?" The promised Messiah, as he had made this request, this person gently also make a request that, "Could you please also look after my sheep?"
Flock, okay.
So the promised Messiah take this responsibility and look after these flocks of sheep. And this shows that the promised Messiah has used this opportunity also to fulfill the sunnah of the prophets, because the Holy Prophet Muhammad ﷺ has also it has been narrated that he said that this is a sunnah of the prophets, that they look after either flocks of sheep or herds of cattle. So the Hazrat Musa ﷺ did this. The Holy Prophet Muhammad ﷺ also had the opportunity to do this, as well as the promised Messiah ﷺ.
I think basically the idea, the wisdom, the rationale behind this practice running through the prophets is, for them to, get that ability to control a crowd, control a nation, or control a group of people, because, controlling a flock or a herd, it takes some skill and some patience and so I think that was a salient aspect or a trait that was very much important as far as the prophets were concerned. Thank you very much. Now, Hakim, tell us, through your discourses, you kept mentioning that the promised Messiah had a unique quality, even in his childhood. So can you tell us where he mostly spent the greater part of his time?
The promised Messiah, ﷺ, as it was stated, did not engage in unnecessary activities. Rather, he used to spend his time in the mosque praying and reading the Holy Quran. Once a man came to his father and asked his father, I always see the elder brother of the promised Messiah, alayhi salatu wasalam, in the house when I come every time. But as for Mirza Ghulam Ahmed, I normally do not see him. So where does he go to? Where can I find him? And the father of the promised Messiah, alayhi salatu wasalam, who is Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Murtaza Sahib, told the man that if you want to see the promised Messiah, then you have to go to the mosque. You either see him wrapped in mats or you see him reading the Holy Quran. So this was the life of the promised Messiah, that he spent greater part of his time in the mosque.
So I'm sure he might have been affectionately referred to as...
Of course,
yeah.
Because in those days, anyone who was spending greater part of his time in the mosque was called Masitar.
Masitar, okay.
Yes, and Masitar means that someone who spends his greater part of his time in the mosque. In Urdu, we call the mosque Masjid, okay. But in Punjabi language, it's called Masjid. So Masjid means mosque, and Masitar is someone who spends his time in the mosque.
Okay, okay. Quite interesting, quite interesting. Thank you so much for being with us. It's been a wonderful time. It's been a wonderful discussion. But unfortunately, this all time will permit us to discuss. Viewers, I hope you enjoyed this program. This has been Milestone. This is your history hub. This is where you learn about Ahmadiyyat. Till we meet again, we say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May the peace and blessings of Allah be on us all.